Welcome to Bean and Bracket Factory and welcome to my latest video. Right now it feels like I've got a zillion projects going on at the same time. I've got the Austin 7 of course, I've got the YZR 500 two-stroke, I've got the RD500 engine, I'm going to show you about that later on. I've got the Cucciolo 48cc engine, Resurrection, brackets it's seized, close brackets. I've got the Austin 7 engine to build, I've got the clutch, cuddly toy, fondue set, so many things. And I'm going to show you a bit about those towards the end of the video, but right now I've got what's known as a quickie, and that is fitting of a new starter motor to the Austin 7. So get a cup of tea, sit down, or a beer, or a glass of wine, depending on what time it is, sit down and enjoy. So there's the existing starter motor down there. It's the original 90 odd years old 6-volt starter motor, which I'm powering with a 12-volt battery. So first step is to get that off. Over the bench, and we can compare and contrast these motors. So this is the original motor. As I said, it's about 90 years old, and it's a 6-volt DC motor, but I've been running it off 12-volt and it's absolutely fine. And the way it works is you basically pull this and it creates, this is your battery terminal here, it creates a contact, very basic switch, and off it goes. Obviously it has to generate all of the torque just on a standard motor. There's no gearbox, there's no nothing, there's no reduction. This one on the other hand, this is the inertia pinion just here. This one is a reduction, has got a reduction gearbox in it, so it doesn't draw anywhere near as much current, and that is one of the main reasons why I'm going to use it. Also, to start it, you've got your battery terminal going to there, and you've got if you put a 12-volt feed to there, that will energize the relay inside, and the motor will spin, and this will come out, and it'll engage in your ring gear, and off you go. It's got this little jumper here, so you can actually use your existing solenoid if you want. And just, you know, so you don't want to muck around with your loom, and you just use the solenoid and put power to here, and it automatically energizes it, but I'm not going to be using that. So, can't get it out now. Oh, there we go. This one has got an adjustable flange on here, which means you can change the position of the motor with respect to the mounting flange, which is given that the whole thing sticks out the side, is obviously going to be quite useful. Right now I don't know whether it's actually going to fit, and I suspect I'm going to have to play around with this. So I think the next step is I'll take out these bolts and I'll offer it up against the car and see if it actually, what angle I need to have it at for it to fit. So take those bolts out and try it on. So I've now bolted the mounting flange on in situ, and you can see in this position, if I put this straight edge on the side of the car, it'll be sticking out the side of the car. So it means it has to rotate up sort of here. Now if it goes all the way to the top, it hits that. In fact, before it hits that, this plug hits that. So, and then that will hit the filler neck right up there. So if I put this straight edge on here, we can see that pretty much, you can see that it's what the distance is between there and there. It's got to be pretty much all the way around about there. So if I get a Sharpie and mark, say, there, I've got to pray that there's a hole that lines up around there. So I'll whip it off now, and we'll see. We'll take it back to the bench. Back at the bench, and it turns out that the nearest hole gives me this misalignment. So I will just have to put the bolt in that hole and try it on and see if obviously the motor body is rotating this way a bit more than I want, so there is a risk that it hits the bodywork. So yeah, in typical fashion, what you do on a special, if it hits the bodywork, is smash out a hole in the bodywork, but I don't really want to do that. Also, what I've had to do is I've had to cut the top of this switch. So where is it? That's the bit that I cut off there, and I used a Japanese pull saw to do that. Very nifty little thing, great for cutting off fingers with a very smooth cut. So yeah, now I need to stick it back on the car and see if it actually fits in situ. Right, it's back in the car now, and you can see just down there that the side panel does touch the corner of the motor. But it's not the end of the world. I think we can probably get away with that. You can see that the panel's still straight. You kind of have to push it in a little bit just there. But I think what I'll do is I'll put a bit of neoprene rubber just between the two to give it a bit of a squidgy cushion. And I'll run it like that. I'm just going to bend the side panel around it a bit. You can see if it was to rotate a little bit here, you can see the gap there. The gap. You've got that much to play with, but it's not much. I could potentially try and machine out the housing, but I think for the time being we'll run with that. If I find the bonnet doesn't go on, I might have to start mucking about with the housing. I don't really want to. So we'll leave it at that. So now I have to solve the problem of switching it on, turning it on and off. So I'll go and get another bit to show you. So the old starter motor had this pull switch, so if I pull from the dash, if I can find it, it goes backwards. I can't find it. Where is it? Yeah, it goes backwards and forwards like this, and it pulled that switch. Now on this one, what I could do is I could wire up a switch on the dash, but I don't want to do that. I want to kind of keep this pull mechanism because I don't want to really drill another hole on the dash and put a switch in and wire it all up. So what I have is this. It's actually the brake light switch off an old Land Rover, an early Land Rover. And if I could mount this thing sort of around there, then I could wire this switch into there, so only a tiny little bit of wire. It loops from the main terminal to this and back to that little exciter spade connection, which would be very simple. And it means I quite like the pull thing, kind of maintain that. So I either mount it on there, but there's nothing obvious I don't want to start mucking around with this casing, or I could mount to the side of there by putting some kind of bracket on. This is a nice black shiny oil pipe, but I do have another one, bit of a grotty one, so I might just have a little play and try and tack on a bracket or something to mount this, and if I can make that work, then it should be pretty easy to connect this up and create this pull switch. So got to get that off. So I'll show you doing that because I made a little tool for that. So we're going to get the oil filler. Now you can't, well, you could grip something like that, but you damage it. So I get that off. I made this tool, just a bit of tubing with some slots cut in, and that slots onto there, into there like that, and it engages in these two little lugs. So in theory, there we go, I can pretty easily, I'll use a smaller screwdriver, I can pretty easily, he says, struggling, unscrew this pipe, this tube. Right, and there you have it. So it's the same as that one, so should be fine, shouldn't it? Right, okay, so I think the next step is to clean this up. So I've got something nice to weld to, make some kind of little bracket, tack it on, and mount that switch. So let's get cracking with that. So I've assembled a few bits and bobs. I've had a bit of a clean up of this. I've taken a Dremel to it and cleaned out these threads, cleaned some of this. I'll clean up that one. I need to weld to that, so that needs to be spotless. So I'll clean up in a minute. This box section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom off and just use that bit of it, and then that's going to be welded to the side of there. And then I'm going to drill and tap a couple of holes for that to go on the side of there. I don't know where I'm going to cut it yet. I'm just going to cut it off at the bottom, drill and tap it, and then offer it up to the car and just sort of see how it all sits, and then decide how it's going to go. So yeah, so let's get cracking with that. Filler neck now screwed in. I've made this little bracket and screwed this thing on. So this will sit here like that and go back to the cable. So if I get a Sharpie somewhere, there's one, get a Sharpie and mark this on here. So let's have a look. There, I reckon. That means I can tack this thing on and see if it offers up right. So this is the moment of truth. I've screwed it in and I'm just going to tighten it up. There it is. I think that's going to work. So my pull switch will work on there like that. So on the strength of that, as the saying goes, I can now weld up the bracket because it's in the right place, and I can start to work out the wiring for it. So I've got to give myself some slack in this because the terminal's right down there. This one is going to have to come down there. This one is going to have to be cut out of the loom and go from up underneath. And then I'm going to need a little jumper which comes off the back, goes to there, and then comes out the other side and goes to the spay terminal. And then I'm also going to need some kind of pull doodah on here, some kind of cable clamp thingamajig, bit like I've got, I don't know whether you can see, you can't, bit like, move the camera, bit like some of the stuff I've got going on with the carb here. So, right, bit of welding, bit of clamp making, come back here and see if I can set it all up. So now back at the bench with the fruits of my labour. Obviously this bracket is the main thing. Obviously I had to weld it on and give it a lick of paint, 3 coats of paint. These 2 wires, this is the feed from the positive terminal to the switch. This is the feed from the switch to the exciter, which actuates the starter motor. This little thing here, this is obviously the pull. I've got a bag of bits and bobs that I've kind of saved over the years. So I found this bracket in there, which is good. And as you saw, this is actually the top of a pin, the earth pin out of a plug. But it fits in there really nicely. So that should do the trick quite nicely, I think. So anyway, without further ado, let's stick it all on the car and see if it works. So there it is, all screwed together. All went together quite easily really. The biggest pain was actually sorting out putting the rubber boot over the wires because there are 4 wires that go into there now. For those of you who are wondering why there are 4, one is the feed from the battery, one is the feed from that to the ignition system, so it goes to a switch and back to the coil. The third is from the charging circuit, and the fourth is the exciter to this switch. So all screwed together, and you will notice I also rejigged the loom slightly, but that I didn't show you that. So without further ado, let's give it a go. The first test will be to pull from here. That works well, thank you very much. And the next test is to pull from the dash. 3, 2, 1. Job's a good one. So mission accomplished, it worked. With a special, there's always a few little niggles and issues you have to sort out, and that's what happened here. Things hit other things. Kind of a bit of a compromise normally, but all's well that ends well, and it sort of ended well. So I'm quite happy with how that all went. So I did at the beginning of the video say that I've got some other projects going on, and I'll give you a sneak preview. So let's go and take a look. So as promised, a little sneak preview of what is also going on in the workshop. This is the little Cucciolo engine. I'm kind of documenting the story behind this, but I'll give you a clue. It's seized. So that's that, a bit of a back burner one. Over here is a slightly bigger two-stroke engine. This is an RD500 engine. Can I zoom out on that a bit? There you go, RD500 engine. I'm going to do a video all about this, explaining what's going on inside there. It looks horrendously complicated. It really isn't. But coming soon on that one. I'm looking forward to making that one. What else have we got? Swing the guns round. I've got the YZR. I'm in the process of fitting some new carbs to this. Again, I'm going to tell the complete story of the bike. It's a complete beast, to say the least. Beast, to say the least. He speaks in rhyme all the time. What else? Down on the floor there, you can see that's the crankcase from an Austin 7. That's the race engine project. So, yeah, plenty of things to be cracking on with. Oh, and let's not forget the Austin 7. Lots of things going on with that as well. So that's it, folks. That's the end of the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit like. If you've got any comments, please leave a comment. If you want to see any of the up and coming stuff, please hit subscribe and you'll get to find about it automatically. But for now, thanks for watching.